Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome back to World War II In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the STG44 assault rifle, better known as the Sturmgewehr. Man, I hope I'm saying that right. The Sturmgewehr assault rifle. I can never pronounce these German words right. Historically speaking, this is the first weapon that most people would classify as a modern assault rifle, and it's one of a handful of fully automatic assault rifles in World War II. I'm going to have a lot of negative things to say about it up front, but it is quite a good gun. The positivity is going to come later on when we hit a more subjective section of In-Depth. First of all, the damage is kind of on the low side, dealing only 30 damage per shot up close and decreasing down to 22 at a distance, meaning that it will take between 4 and 5 shots to kill somebody with the STG44 assault rifle. Headshot damage is minimal at 1.1x, and it's also, because of the way the numbers work out, no difference in shots to kill at any range, meaning there's no reason to be shooting anybody in the head unless you happen to be going for challenges or you're running high caliber. Neither at close nor long range will you get less shots to kill, so always aim for the body. The 4-shot kill range on the weapon is an impressive 50 meters, and the advanced rifling 4-shot kill range is an equally impressive 100 meters. Both of these are ranges longer than which you'll normally be engaging people. It's the same as the M1941, and I do want to point out I had a mistake in the M1941 episode. I said it was significantly less than this. That is not the case, but it's identical to the M1941. Unfortunately, it doesn't fire as fast as that gun. The rate of fire for the STG44 is 667 rounds per minute, neighbor of the beast, and if you put rapid fire on it, it'll increase up to approximately 715 rounds per minute, depending on how your frame rounding goes. Unfortunately, that's kind of average in class. Well, there's a lot of semi-automatics in the game, so technically that's a little bit faster than average, but compared to other Call of Duty games, it would be a little bit slower, and because of what we're going to have to talk about next, it's kind of average-ish. Time to kill for the STG44 is bottom tier at almost every range. Almost every assault rifle will kill faster up close. The vast majority of them will kill faster at a distance. The SMGs outclass it, the shotguns do, a surprising number of the light machine guns. When it comes to raw time to kill, the STG is not a very competitive weapon at all, and most other weapons outclass it. However, theoretical long-range time to kill is decent. I mean, it's got a good 4-shot range, and it's very accurate. So the STG44 is accurate enough to make that, like, theoretical, perfect, no-missing long-range time to kill quite good, but it's still not, like, insanely good or great. The iron sights, in my opinion, are too obstructive and hinder the amazing accuracy of this weapon. That's one of the things we're going to talk about later on, is how accurate the STG44 is, and because of that, I don't really like the iron sights. I'm always aiming at people really far away, and I feel that the iron sights are a little bit too big and a little bit too obstructive to do that. Yeah, you can see people, they're more or less fine up close, and they'll do the trick for medium range, but if you really want to min-max this weapon and get the optimal benefit out of it, I feel that optics of some kind are great. However, I would strongly discourage the ACOG sight. I thought to myself, this is a really low recoil gun, it's got great range and great accuracy, you know, I'll probably just put an ACOG on there and just laser beam people. The shake on the ACOG sight and the way it handled subjectively made me uncomfortable with it. It made me feel like I was aiming worse, and I didn't particularly like it. I would strongly recommend the reflex sight if you have to pick a sight. Another important thing to mention before we get to the good parts of the gun is that the hipfire spread on the STG is wider than most of the other assault rifles. In Sledgehammer's most recent nerf, they decided to nerf this one to make it wider. I think that's to make sure the SMGs were a little bit more competitive, but it's also bugged. For example, here's a clip that I zoomed in on, and you'll notice that when I crouch, the crosshairs kind of spaz out a little bit, and they're wider when I'm crouched than they are when I'm standing up. I think the nerf only applied to the crouched stance and not the standing one or prone one, which is a little bit strange. I think that nerf is bugged. It'll probably change in the future, but do keep in mind it's better hip firing standing up, which is kind of strange. Whew, all that's out of the way. I've dogged on the gun. I've made it seem like terrible. You're going to say, Drifter, why in the world would you use this? And why in the world do I see so many people using it? Well, the recoil is extremely low and it's extremely predictable. This gun is basically a laser. I can't stress that enough. It has virtually zero total recoil or kick. It kicks up just a little bit less than any other weapon in the class except for maybe the M1A1, and that's a semi-automatic gun. And when it does kick, it's almost just a little bit vertical. There's almost no side-to-side wobble. There's no drift in one direction or the other. There's not a whole lot of compensating you have to do. It is extraordinarily easy to just map people with this gun to control your recoil, and because of that, it feels great. The rate of fire isn't super fast, so you don't get any sort of weird stacking shots. I don't think there's any first shot kick multiplier. There's nothing about the STG44 that feels bad at all. Everything about the weapon, from the rate of fire to the recoil to the handling, it's all just going to feel great, and you're going to feel super comfortable using it, and you can just adapt to this weapon incredibly quickly, and I think that's why so many people gravitate toward it. Along with the long-range 4-shot kill, it's going to give you a very consistent feeling. It's going to feel like my aim is on point, I'm killing people in 4 shots at any range, I understand this weapon, and because of that, a lot of people gravitate toward it, even though it may not be like mathematically, theoretically, technically speaking, the most amazing thing. As long as you can use it well, that's what's important. Another good thing about the STG is its recenter speed is very quick too. I'm going to start calling this variable recenter speed because it makes more sense that way. In the game files, it's listed as center speed, and that's what I've been traditionally doing, but it's essentially how quickly your gun will come back to your original aim point after you fired or after you flinched or something like that. So if you flinch, if you fire a lot, if you don't control the recoil, if for whatever happens you just get way off target, the STG will recenter back to resting position very quickly, and that makes it feel very good, at least to me. The STG44 does, however, have idle sway, but it isn't too bad. For the assault rifles, I would say it's a little bit less than average. However, the FG42 and BAR really skew the results there because they sway a lot. The STG44 does have idle sway. It does have the weird stair-step mechanic. It can definitely throw you off at long ranges, but it's not one that I notice a whole lot. I would say it's slightly less than average for the assault rifle class and probably won't trip up many of you. Another great thing about this weapon is it has 30 rounds in the magazine. Thank you, based Condry. I know that's historical as well. So many of the assault rifles have tiny magazines for historical reasons or balance reasons. This one's got a solid, dependable, normal Call of Duty 30 rounds in the magazine, and if you put extended mags on it, it's got 45. That's the best in the entire class. I can't offhand think of another assault rifle that has 30 rounds in the magazine base or goes anywhere close to 45, so being able to kill multiple people with the gun, potentially up to 11 if you don't miss very much, is a godsend compared to having to reload all the time. Because of that, hustle isn't really necessary on the gun, and I do think that it has possibly the strongest case for extended mags if you're trying to just really max out the gun's hosing potential. Reload time is kind of average at 1.3 seconds. The reload animation is slightly longer at 1.8, but the cancel time, the raw, like mechanical reload time, is 1.3 seconds. About average for the class. Nothing to really worry about. I didn't run hustle very much. I didn't have very many ammunition difficulties even without the extended mag, so I don't think that either of them are necessary, but I do spray a lot, and I do just, my god, it makes me feel good to have such a huge magazine in a game with such tiny ones. So extended mags are fun, and I use it all the time to just help me spray and pray and be a big noob with the STG. I do like to give recommendations for divisions because I think that some guns benefit strongly from one division or another. However, I think the STG works well with any division. It certainly doesn't have to have the bayonet. That's nice. I like the bayonet and whatnot, but you can use it on mountain, expeditionary, you can use it with airborne. The gun is very general purpose, very easy to use, very rough and tumble. There's very few situations where it's actually like a bad gun. So there's no division you shouldn't be using it on. It'll work fine everywhere. And my final opinion on the STG is that it's essentially like the ACR from Modern Warfare 2 or the HVK-30 from Black Ops 3, but imported into World War II. The gun has low damage, low rate of fire, the time to kill is slower than what would be ideal, but it's super accurate. It's super easy to use, it's super comfortable, it's got a very generous magazine, it's very generous with its recenter speed, it's generous in a lot of ways, and it offers you a lot of creature comforts that you can really make use out of. Like, yeah, the BAR will definitely kill you faster, the M1 Garand can theoretically do really crazy things with its 2-shot range, but those weapons are inherently more difficult to use than the STG. You can just take the STG and hose people and you don't really have to think about it. When I'm running this weapon on pubs, I'm going to look for Hustle and Lookout. I don't use Hustle too much, but it's one of those crutch perks I get addicted to. I just love the super fast reloading. I'll probably be running Lookout more because I want to be able to see people at long ranges, and it helps me see through smoke and war mode and stuff like that. I like quick draw on the weapon because I like being able to snap aim. I'm just kind of a sucker for it. I don't really need foregrip or anything else. Extended mags is quite fun. It just gives me tons of bullets to spray with, and I like running the reflex sight. I know quick draw is not a very popular attachment anymore, so if I weren't going to be running quick draw, I'd probably have steady aim for better hipfire since that was nerfed, or I might even put rapid fire on it just to decrease that time to kill a little bit. It's not a huge benefit, but for this gun, I think it might make a little bit of sense. And when it comes to the recommended setup for competitive, I probably wouldn't use it in competitive just because in competitive you're looking for things like raw time to kill, potential, super precision like the bar or something like that, or getting picks with a sniper rifle. You don't want to be having a gun that you can't compete with on raw time to kill, so I really wouldn't run it. Maybe if I did use it, I would do steady aim and extended mags, and I would use it sort of an SMG AR hybrid to hold a position, maybe, but I wouldn't recommend it in general. Guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out. If you want all the weapon stats for World War II in your pocket to go, then look no further than the Ultimate Utility app by Brass Monkey. It's available on iOS and Android. There are links in the description, or you can just search for it in the App Store.